Hello everybody, and once again welcome along to an edition of the Rebel White Ball. No need to delve into any news because there's so much sport to get through in this particular edition, from All-Ireland football final, Camogie final, county championships, maybe changes in the intercounty setup in Cork, not to mention a couple of big games coming up, or a couple of games that have gone by in the world of association football. Well, the All-Ireland final, the most unique pairing in quite a while, between Mayo and Tyrone, takes place on Saturday evening. I think Tyrone is at 5 o'clock, and I think it's a long time, probably nearly 10 years now, since the two pre-tournament favourites, the top favourites, are out of the competition. And on this occasion we'd have been talking about Dublin and Kerry. And as a consequence then we have the most novel of pairings, Mayo and Tyrone. I know that when Tyrone were playing Kerry a couple of weeks ago in the semi-final, I just got slightly confused when I assumed that those people that wanted Tyrone to lose because of the antics over COVID wanted Kerry to win. I was well offside on that occasion, but I do believe that the majority of the country on this occasion will be behind them in from the Northwest, as they bid to win their first All-Ireland in 70 years. And is that why we think they're going to do it? I'm not too sure. Do I know who's going to win? Well, what do you think? Not a clue. If I was to kind of throw a bit of a guess out there, I would think that the Mayo defence is a mature enough outfit. They've added on a couple of new players, this fella Padraig O'Hora and Oisin Mullen, who hopefully will be past fit to play. And then you have the old stagers like Lee Keegan, Paddy Duncan and Stephen Cohen. So I think that they, would be better able to maybe keep a handle on Tyrone, the Tyrone forwards, than maybe other counties, fellas like Darren McCurry, Matthew Donnelly, and of course Cathal McShane, this guy who comes off the bench. Kieran McGeary for Tyrone is slowly developing into a serious contender for Player of the Year. Then you have the two goalies, and they're eccentric characters, the two of them, Rob Finlay and Niall Morgan. And I know that there was so much made of Niall Morgan the last day in terms of that massive kick that he kicked over the bar, vital point against Kerry. But he missed a few as well. He drove a few kickouts over the line. The Tyrone backline defence, they're no slouches either. Peter Hart and Frank Burns, we've seen them playing several times. And then you've Ronan McNamee and Padraig Hamacy. When you look at the forwards for Mayo, Cillian O'Connor isn't around the place. Aidan O'Shea probably will be in there. He ain't going to be scoring. So their scoring options seem to have diminished, and they'll be depending on Tommy Conroy and Ryan O'Donoghue in particular. At midfield, I think they hold the sway there, in that this pairing of Matthew Ruane in particular and Conor Loftus have been growing, I suppose, in stature, if you use that term, over the past while. Look, it's going to be such a novel pairing, hopefully a good match, and dare we say, hopefully that Mayo will eventually end that long famine. But then if that happened, the Mayo for Sam slogan would disappear off our screens, and there's something a bit magical about that, isn't there? But anytime Mayo have been in final over the past number of years, nobody has got up and left the stadium early or got away from television screens early. They are, I don't know what it's about them, but they are entertaining when they get to an All-Ireland final. It's Camogie final weekend, and of course it's a big weekend for Cork, because they are in that at quarter past four on Sunday when they take on Galway. Who the favourites? I suppose the fact that Cork defeated Kilkenny being the All-Ireland champions, maybe some people would look at it like that. And a lot of talk in the build-up, of course, has been about the suspension of Orla Cronin, who, because of horrendous questions, received a 3-match ban, which is a huge pity for the team and for her. And like, she is such a talented hurler, and talking like, obviously she did something, and but I think if you look back through it in the sequence to it, drawing back the hurling, she had probably plenty of reason for doing that. But maybe that doesn't stand up. And it went before the hearings committee, and they upheld the decision to give it 3-match mandate. I think now it goes, or maybe it has already done so, before the appeals committee. And failing that, then they have the option of bringing it to the DRA. I'm not too sure the Camogie do stuff like that. I've heard in the past that going to the DRA could cost anything up to €10,000. Hopefully she'll make it, but if she doesn't, it doesn't mean that all is lost from a Cork point of view. Okay, Galway are a good side, but so too are Cork, and even though that the Camogie final won't get the same publicity, I suppose, as the football got last week, because both of these teams have won it in the recent past, whereas the victory for Meath last week raised the profile of the game hugely once again. I suppose an interesting aspect of on this occasion from Cork is the number of West Cork girls that are actually on it. And in the past, you might have one or two West Cork players. You've Libby Coppinger all the way from St. Columns in Cale, because she operates her own full back. Then we've mentioned Orla Cronin from Inniskeen, you've Ciara O'Sullivan from Newstown, and you have the three Corsi Rovers players, Saoirse McCarthy, who operates usually around wing back, Fiona Keating up on the forwards, and of course the team captain Linda Collins. And I know there was some discussion about whether Linda should start or not. She's a team captain, she's a great leader, a talented hurler and a solid individual, and she understands that it's about the team and whether she contributes off the bench or starts. She understands that situation fully. So yeah, that's a kind of a change over the past couple of years. For goalkeeper Amy Lee from the Piercy Club, it's obviously a big occasion as well. She's stepping up from Aoife Murphy, who's been in goal in the past. And their defence, Maeve Cahalan from that famous Cahalan family, Hannah Looney and Laura Tracy, and of course, a bit like Corsi Rovers, you have Kelly with a number of players involved in that as well, including their main forward, Chloe Sigerson. So all in all, I think there's a great chance here that Cork can win it, but it would be, I would hope as well that Orla Cronin will be able to line out in that match. This weekend sees the start of the Cork the Cork 5 County Hurling Championships. And as I look out the window here, let's hope that this is not the omen for what's to come. It's absolutely lashing from the heavens, and we're in the month of September, and these championships have to be played. Now, you probably got the hang of what happened last weekend in the football. In football, there are 4 championships, and in hurling, there are 5. Now, you might ask why. There are 60 teams taking part in the Cork Hurling Championship, 52 in the Cork Football Championship, I think it is, and or 54 in the 4 football championships. I'll come to why there's more hurling teams, and there shouldn't be, than football teams. It's the same format. There are 12 teams in each championship, divided up into 3 groups of 4. But every match this weekend in each of the championships, they've divided up into A, B, and C. They are just the name of the groups, but the 2 top seeded teams in each group will meet, and the 2 bottom seeded teams, which means it goes without saying it's a massive weekend, particularly for the bottom ones, because were they to lose this one, they could be in real trouble in terms of trying to avoid relegation. In terms of promoted team, last weekend all the promoted teams in the football won their matches. All the relegated teams, bar one, Gabriel Rangers, lost theirs. The promoted teams on this occasion, you've Charleville, Blarney, Aero, Castlemartin, Liscool. Will they all win? We'll keep an eye on that. The relegated teams from last year's championship, Ballyhay, Kilworth, Blackrock second team, and Arragadeen Rangers. Starting with the Premier Scene of Hurling, and of course here there's this is made up of the big contributors, 6 city teams, 4 East Cork. There are only 4 dual teams in it, which might surprise some of you, but not the big match. Glen Rovers take on Douglas, and of course Douglas lost to Blackrock in the quarter-final last year. This is a big one, Glen Rovers losing the final. So, and this takes place Saturday at 7:30 in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It goes without saying that Douglas, is this their year? I wonder. I'd imagine they'll be the slight favourites in this occasion. Newtown, Shannon, Bishopstown. Remember Bishopstown last year? They lost all 3 and they only avoided relegation by defeating Ballyhay. Newtown, they won this corresponding game last year, and I think they're going to possibly win again on this occasion. It's challenging times for the Bishopstown club. their hurling team, I think, is slightly ahead of their football team, so that might save them there. Moving on to the next group, SARS and the Piercy. Look, SARS are probably the top team there. I think they will beat the Piercy. There was a bit of a surprise when they lost the quarter-final to their near neighbours, Erin's Own, last year. And the Piercy lost the quarter-final to UCC. The Piercy are not going to win the championship, but like a lot of other clubs, or a number of other clubs in the 12, they'll be trying to avoid relegation. Middleton were very disappointing last year, in last year's championship, I should say. And I know that Ben O'Connor, he's their manager. I think he's their second year in charge. They take on Carricktool on Saturday, 2 o'clock. By the way, SARS Piercy game goes on Saturday as well at 5:30 in Cork. So Saturday, 2 o'clock, I'd expect Middleton to get over Carricktool. Blackrock and Erin's Own, well, Blackrock, the county champions, they won their 33rd, their first since 2002. Will they retain it? Well, they should. I was going to say they should beat Erin's Own, but shouldn't they really? Who had a good year last year? They got as far as the semi-final, losing, I think, to Glen Rovers. And Bars and Charleville. St. Finn Bars last year nearly went into receiverships, which was the panic after they losing, I think, their first round. 2 rounds, they changed management and they gave Carricktool a good hammering to stay out of relegation. Well, they played Charleville, and I think, the Bears obviously will be the favourites here, but Charleville are the promoted team and they're a good side as well. So that could be an interesting match, and that goes on Saturday at 3:30 in Mallow. The Blackrock Erin's Own game is the one that starts the campaign for us, and that's, as we said, on Friday evening, 7:30 in Cork. So, like the scene of hurling, I suppose Blackrock, now remember, you have the 2 teams. You have the divisional and the colleges. We'll be talking about them later on, but certainly Blackrock will be considered, they're definitely going to be making the knockout stages of it, and probably will be, I don't know what are the bookies saying, but they probably are the favourites. In the Senior Hurling Championship, there's 5 dual clubs taking part here, 12 teams again. In Section A, A, B and C, there's no difference in these, like in terms of anything else. But in the big game, the top tier game, you have Kanturk versus Bandon. Kanturk, these are great dual clubs, so are Bandon a dual club as well. But I think that Kanturk, they reached the semi-final last year. Bandon, they lost actually to Kanturk in the quarter-final, and I think, look, that you'd have to fancy Kanturk to get over that one. Blarney, they're the promoted team, and they're made up of all those young players that came on the Cork team this year. They take on Fermoy, and Fermoy lost football last week. They did. I expect Blarney to win that. Then you have Ballyhay versus Bride Rovers. Ballyhay, the relegated team. Bride Rovers, with a couple of young players on their side. They lost the quarter-final to Newcestown last year, so I expect Bride Rovers to win that one. Ballymartin and Mallow, to be honest, I don't know what's going to happen here. These 2 clubs are going through a real valley period in terms of hurling. So could we go for the draw on this one? Or maybe we'd have Mallow slight favourites, but no, not putting huge amount on that. Father O'Neill's in Newcestown. That game, by the way, Kanturk and Bandon is 3:30 Saturday in Coachford. Blarney and Fermoy 2 o'clock Saturday in Roadstown. And then Ballyhay and Bride Rovers in Castletown Road Sunday 2 o'clock. With Ballymartin, Bandon and Blarney Sunday 2. Then the big game, Newcestown and Father O'Neill's. That game goes on Sunday in Park Arena. Father O'Neill's getting to the final last year and losing out. And of course, Newcestown lost the semi-final to Father O'Neill's. Father O'Neill's would have to be the favourites there because of the very fact they concentrate on hurling. Newcestown, they're a Premier Senior football team as well. So that's a big ask for them in their opening day out. Clyne and Killa, well, these are Slaughnet, Buckley, if you were ever to take it. Clyne stayed out of relegation last year. Killa found themselves in relegation and just beat Kilworth by a point in the end. So does that mean that Killa would be the favourites on this occasion? But it's a seriously important match. Sure, they all are. But for these 2, if they're trying to get away from that frightening trapdoor. In the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship, there are a 4 South East team, 5 dual clubs here. Carrigaline and Corsi Rovers opening the proceedings Saturday 4 o'clock in Ballinhassig, and Corsi Rovers an amazing team last year. They lost their 2 games. I think they're the only crowd that got 2 points and went all the way to the county semi-final, and they lost that semi-final to Castlelyons, whereas Carrigaline lost their semi-final to the eventual winners Blarney. So that'll tell you like that there's definitely they're 2 talented sides. I suppose we'd have to go for Carrigaline in that one. Youall and Éire Óg. Did I forget about Éire Óg being promoted earlier on? Well, I shouldn't have. They're the promoted team here, and their football team last week, we saw what they did, and I think they'll beat Youall this Sunday at 2 o'clock in Caherlag. It's a big game for them. You know, they're a club that like to keep hurling and football going. It's a huge, huge ask at this high level, but they tried their best at it. Then you have Castlelyons and Watergrass Hill, 2 top teams once again, and Castlelyons lost to Blarney in the semi-final. Watergrass Hill, they won all their games last year and were, you know, I think there was a bit of a surprise when Corsi Rovers beat them. So, like, I'd be going for Castlelyons and that. Inniscarry and Valley Rovers, these are the 2 basement sides here. Valley Rovers avoiding relegation just because they beat Blackrock. They just might get over Inniscarry. I don't think this is a massively talented Inniscarry side. That game is on in Ovens, by the way, on Saturday, and the Castlelyons Watergrass Hill game is on in Rathcormac. Then Kilworth and Ballincollig, Watergrass Hill Sunday 2. As we said, Kilworth are relegated, and Ballincollig, I think they beat Blarney. They were beaten by Blarney in the quarter final, but they made a great comeback in that. They're another one of the dual sides, so I think I'll stay with them for that one. Ballinhassig and Ahada. Ballinhassig aren't usually down at this, I was going to say this depth. They usually graze higher up, but they didn't qualify last year, and Ahada were much better than them, to be honest with you. They play Sunday 2 o'clock in Shanbally, and I think we'd be going for Ballinhassig in it. In the intermediate A hurling championship, oh my God, the rain is getting worse. 5 of the 12 teams are second teams, and some of these second teams are going to the Series A in this championship. But the big one is a Habolog versus SARS that goes on Sunday at Church Road at 3 o'clock. And you remember a Habolog, they lost the county final, this county final to Éire Óg, their neighbours, and lost ownership of Roofs Bridge in the process. SARS lost Éire Óg after extra time, so look, I'd nearly be going for SARS in that particular match. Dungoon and Glen Rovers ended up in a relegation kind of a battle, so with second teams you're never too sure, so maybe Dungooney will see this as opportunity at Sunday in Carricktool at 3 o'clock. Blackrock and Mayfield, it's Blackrock's second team, they're the team that were relegated. Mayfield got as far as the quarter final, lost out to Habolog, and if you look at the situation in Mayfield, their football team was relegated down to junior last year. I would say a bit unfair, it was unfair in them. They were a dual team made up of the same players. They had a lot of injuries, but they played in the City Division, and as far as I can gather, they've just got 1 match, beat by Nemo Rangers on Monday night. So that's 1 championship football match, and that is absolutely no way to promote football. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think that they might win this hurling game. It is on Saturday evening. Then you have Castlemartyr and Douglas Sunday in Castlelyons. Castlemartyr, the county, they won the intermediate A hurling, the lower grade intermediate hurling, and they are now promoted. So I think they'll be the favourites there. Douglas didn't qualify last year. Douglas is the second team. Kildare and Clodove, they both had good enough seasons last year. That game goes on Saturday in Mourneabbey, and they got as far as the concluding stages. Kildare got a right hammering the football last week from the Tomas O'Shea coached Glanmire. I hope I have that right. So they'll be hoping to maybe do a little bit better with the hurling 6. And then you've got Middleton's second team versus Meelan. Meelan found themselves in a relegation playoff, and I think that Meelan will, that they'll beat Meelan in that one, and that's Sunday at 3 o'clock in Glantan. And then you have the lower intermediate hurling championship. Now, the original plan was that anybody who didn't open this championship at the end of 2021 would revert back to their divisions. but it would appear that pleas were made to the county board that the homes which they were meant to be homed into weren't suitable at this moment in time. So I'm calling this championship the Holding Cell Championship until the county board decides what to do with it, because if there are 4 12s in football, then there should be 4 12s in hurling. Anyway, there's serious games in it, serious derbies. You have Arrogideen Rangers play here on Kilbritton at Sunday 4 o'clock in Bandon. Arrogideen were relegated. Kilbritton had a good season last year, lost to Castlemartin, the eventual county champions by a goal. But this is the test now for Arrogideen Rangers. Can they buck the trend, if you like, and beat their neighbours? Dripsey versus Grey, and these are 2 clubs obviously that they are struggling. They each lost 2 games last year. They drew with each other. Is that what could happen again Sunday in Ballyanley? I'm not too sure. Russell Rovers, who were they lost the county final to Castlemartin. They're playing Tracton, and Tracton were heavily defeated last year by Kilbritton. They're a club that's struggling a little bit at the moment in terms of hurling teams, so I think the Russell Rovers would get over that one. Next we have, and that game goes on Sunday in Ballinora at 2 o'clock. At the same time in Cove you have Bars and Liscool, the Bars second team. Liscool are the county junior hurling champions, so they'll, even though that it depends on how the Bars senior team will get on as regards using players and all of that, that's going to be a tough test for Liscool on their first day out. St. Catherine's in Milford, 2 o'clock Sunday in Mitchelstown, and St. Catherine's both of them lost to Russell Rovers last year. I think the St. Catherine's would be slight favourites there. And Ballygavin and Barryroe. Ballygavin didn't qualify for the knockout stages. Barryroe just stayed up because they beat Ballymartle's second team. But maybe Barryroe have improved, and Murphy, I believe, has taken over the training there. So that could be, you know, that could be a decisive move there as some new players coming through to Barryroe. So that's a look at I suppose, if you like, the various games in the championship. There are 30 games in all, 26 last week for the football. If you can get to them, great. If you're not, there'll be plenty media attention given to them. And of course, during the week then we had the situation with Ronan McCarthy. The County Board Executive met Monday night, and they decided not to, I suppose, they kind of terminated his term. He had a 2-year term, and he and the county manager, if it is the only thing that happens to them in life, getting fired from coaching a county team, they'll have a good life. I know there was a bit of commotion as to how the news broke out, but obviously when the decision was made, I presume this was passed on to Ronan by whoever has that job from the executive. So now, as to deciding, what surprised me a bit about it actually was that there seems to be a perception created out there that the heir apparent to this is Bobby O'Dwyer, who was in charge of the minor team. I'm not too sure where all this is coming from, and by the way, do I think he should get the job? Well, what I think about this now shouldn't make any difference whatsoever, but I'm just a little surprised that other names. I know that Keith Ricken seemingly doesn't want this job. You know, he's a successful tenure with the under-20 teams, but you know, you've guys, I presume there are other people out there, and then you have some people saying they should go outside the county. Believe me, that won't happen, I think. John Finton Daly is a name that keeps popping up. Somebody asked me, did I think he was interested? Without having any discussion with him, I can tell you he would be. And when you think of his track record, if he was anybody else, he'd have been managing county teams a long time ago, I would imagine. But anyway, John Cleary is another name that comes up every now and then. But I'm just saying that I was a bit surprised to hear that Bobby O'Dwyer was I don't know, the preferred choice of who. Is it somebody that decides this from one of our media brethren? I honestly don't know. Anyway, you have, and the ladies football. There's some right carry-on going on there as well, in that they are looking for, I'm not saying a new manager, but Ify Fitzgerald's term is up, and whatever. I think there was criticism of him at some board meeting as well, so they've now opened it up for nominations, and I believe that your people like Aoife himself may be interested, Shane O'Neill might be interested, and of course John Cleary has a lot of work done with underage ladies football team. So there's an incredible upheaval, I think, in terms of some of these inter-county managements when they go on all over the place. I hope that Cork gets it together and get their person in place pretty quickly. So anyway, in terms of soccer, it's a big weekend now. The Premier League is back, and I know there's a bit of grief over some players returning from Brazil. But the big games in the Premier League itself, on Saturday you have Crystal Palace playing Spurs, and those of you that follow sport, they're now on top of the league. Arsenal at the very bottom. I don't know that ever happened before, that the two of the North East London clubs, one at the top, one at the bottom, maybe it did, but not in this manner. They play Norwich, Arsenal do. Man United will play Newcastle United, and of course will Ronaldo make his appearance here. And then you have Chelsea versus Aston Villa, their games on Saturday, and the big game on Sunday is Leeds versus Liverpool. And in terms of the League of Ireland, the two Cork clubs in action, and Cork City, who are absolutely flying at the moment, take on Shells, and that will be a big game at home for them. Whether to win that, they keep moving up the table. Cove, I don't know what's gone wrong there, but they should win this weekend because they play Wexford United. So until we meet again, that's our offering for this week. Hope you enjoyed maybe some of it, if not all of it. Thanks again for tuning this way.